All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. Hopefully you all did the attendance. All right. Okay, so welcome to lesson 5, the beginner track. Today we're going to be talking about databases using NoSQL. And also, I'm Sam. I haven't taught the beginner track yet. Me and Ashant decided to teach us one, and Hadi is teaching the intermediate lesson today. So yeah. So here's a review of what we've done so far and what we got planned. After this week, we'll be done teaching all the content you need to know to create the final project. And then we'll have 2 Saturdays project days, along with the Wednesday office hours in between. And you can DM us on Slack anytime. Here's the intermediate track. And I basically just said that already. So I'm assuming you all have a code editor by now, text editor. All right, so for review, we got Vue using Vue directives, and we create components to modify web pages in JavaScript. And this is how you add Vue and JavaScript. You add the script tag. I'm sure you all have already gone over this. And here are the 5 very useful Vue directives. We'll be using a lot for the final project. And what you learned last week. So Vue components, you can break up your code. It's like mini HTML pages for each component. They have their own data, methods, and formatting. And you can use events and props to communicate between them and the main instance. So now for the new content, we're going to be talking about databases. So this is a way to store a lot of data in a central location. An example of this is like probably the ginormous database that YouTube has for all their videos, as well as Amazon and New York Times. And it makes it easy to synchronize data across a lot of different platforms for a lot of different users. And so for a while, SQL, structured query language, was the standard, and it's still good. The only problem is it uses a table approach, and sometimes it's not good for storing a lot of data in a rigid table. But there's pros and cons to both. It can be slower for web apps as well. So that's why we're going to be doing NoSQL for this course. They don't have a set standard to store data. It's fast, well, faster in some ways, easier to scale, and easy to develop. And there's a lot of different types of NoSQL databases. And the one we're going to be using is the Firebase real-time database. It's easy to use and set up. So Firebase, developed by Google. It has a lot of useful features. You can check them out, but the only one we're going to be talking about today is the real-time database. So it stores things in a JSON structure. Everything is either a key value pair or a key JSON pair. And JavaScript handles JSON well, so it interfaces really well with the real-time database. All right, so for demo program 1, I'm going to tell you guys how to set it up. And just for reference, checkpoint 1 is you guys setting up for yourself. So feel free to follow along. I'm going to go through it kind of fast because in these slides, which we've linked in the Slack, you see there's a bunch of hidden files here, or hidden slides. This will walk you through it like a step-by-step of what I'm about to do. So it's fine if you get lost during the demo, just follow along with these slides when we get to the checkpoint. So what you want to do, you want to click on this link, it takes you here. So you'll either see create a project if you've never created one. I'm assuming you guys see this, but you might see add a project. So it's just one of these 2 buttons. So you'll create a project. So try demo, accept the terms. And you want to deselect this. We don't need it, just additional stuff we don't need. So you create the project and let it initialize. Should take, I don't know, about 15, 20 seconds at most. All right. So now we have a new project. So what we need to do now is create, let's see. Well, this looks different. Why does this look different? Sorry, normally you'll see this on the left. And that's what I saw earlier this morning whenever I did a demo of this. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So I actually never seen this. So you have to click this to get a dropdown. That's good to know. So you'll create the real-time database from this build dropdown. I didn't realize these were dropdowns. Cool. Okay, so yeah, click this, and you'll see the create database, and pick your location. I'm assuming most of you will be here. So you click next, and here's an important thing. We're starting in test mode. but it gives you a warning because you never want to publish your website in test mode with a database in test mode, because that's like a huge security error, security warning. Like you don't want to do that because then just anyone can change the data in your database. So obviously we're not storing anything important in our database, it's just fake data, but just know that for the future. So then you click enable after doing start in test mode. All right, so here is our database. And as you can see, there's nothing in it yet, but what we're going to do is first go to project settings from this settings wheel. We're gonna scroll down and create an app inside of our projects. We wanna create a web app. So you click this icon and I'll just do that. And we don't need to click that. We'll register it. Okay, and technically neither of these matter. Click this one just to be clear. Basically, we're not using npm. We haven't introduced it yet in the beginner track, so just use the script tag. But really, the only thing we care about is this right here, this config. You can copy it and paste it to a file locally on your computer. That way you don't lose it. There's also an easy way to get to it from Firebase itself. So I personally never save this to a local file, but Hattie's done that in the past, so you have the option of doing either. So our database is set up now, and what I'll show you next is how to, let's see, we're already here. I'm gonna show you how to import data into the database. So click the wrong one. Okay, so you click real-time database once again after creating your app. You see it's still null, but we want to add static data to start with. So you click the 3 buttons on the top right, import JSON, you upload, and I'm taking this directly from, cancel, I'll show you. So this is our GitHub lesson 5 branch. That's what we're working out of today. The example data is data.json. So if you guys want to copy this, a lot of this code is going to be really useful for the coming demos and checkpoints as well. So please use that as well, just to follow along. It'll be a good judge to see if your database is working or not, if you're able to do this step. So you click the file, open, and then you import it, and there we go. So see, it's green, these were green, and that was yellow. Show you why. Here's a legend. So our root was changed because new data was added, and these are green because they were added. So yeah, the legend is pretty cool. It's very nice. And it even works real time when you're modifying in the browser. So that's cool. I think that about wraps it up for the demo. This is a good stopping point. So if you can see this page by the end of the checkpoint, then you succeeded. And if not, it's totally fine. We'll have time after lecture for you to do this, and me and Ashan will help you through it. So with that being said, just follow along with these slides, and I'll be here to answer questions. And I'll give you about, I think maybe like 10 minutes. So go ahead and get Firebase set up. Use these to walk through it, and talk in the chat or send a chat, or just raise your hand if you have any questions. All right, there's one thing I forgot to mention. I forgot to mention how you get the config, because that's the most important part that you need to save or be able to get back to. So once it's okay, we'll go back. So you select your project, make sure you're in the correct project. Then you go to the settings, click on project settings again. You scroll down, and the point of creating the web app is so that we can get this config right here to make it more readable. This is literally all we need. We don't need any of the extra code that they provide for us. So this is how you get back to it. For demo 2, I'll show you what to do with it. Just make sure that you can get to this point. You could have also, like I said, put it in a local file. So either way. All right, now we're done with checkpoint 1. So like I said, again, all of your databases are in test mode. So please don't publish this to the internet for just anyone to view. Technically, it doesn't really matter because you don't have sensitive data, but it's just a good practice to keep in mind for the future. All right, so part 4 is JavaScript. How do we interface? How do we add Firebase to JavaScript? So what you want to do like I said before, you paste the copied config to the JS file template. This is referencing, let's see, I'll show you. So here, demo 2, this is the template we're talking about. So all the rest of this code in this file will not run unless you have a valid config here. So you'll paste what's inside here. You'll paste, so you'll copy all this yours, and then you'll paste it in here. And I would change the formatting, but I won't, just for the demo's sake. And I'll show that in a sec. Yeah, so that you need that, and then you need to add these script tags. This allows us to use the pre-built the given methods that Firebase has for us, like Firebase.database. So we can't, it'll give us an error if we don't have those libraries attached. So to access the database, we use the Firebase.database method. You need to store this as a variable somewhere for JavaScript, because what I mean right here, so inside of these, I don't remember the correct term for it, but the angled brackets, I think actually that might be the term. What I mean right here is the value for, the return value of this. And so every operation needs a reference. This is that reference, is how you get the reference. It provides a script to get the references, and the parameter. So the parameter what's inside of the parentheses is the string path to the data. So an example of that, this is a string path. The root is just a / with nothing else. But right here, we're specifically looking for the fall 2021 key, because remember, it's a key value pair or a key JSON pair. So this right here would be, it would be selecting, that is not what I wanted to click. It will be selecting this key right here. So there's the root, and then it selects the key. So that's how that works. And then you can have subkeys. So you can have nested JSON objects, since it can be key value or key JSON. So this would be selecting fall 2021. It would be selecting the final right here. So it would be selecting all the way down to here. That's the path. So that's how that works. And we have 3 methods that are provided: set, update, and remove. They do just what they sound like. The data provided, the parameters provided for both of these, it's either a value or a JSON object. And remove doesn't have a parameter because it will remove the whole path that you provide in a string. And so reading, it requires a few more functions strung together. This is the easiest way to do it, and it doesn't look very readable at first glance, but basically Firebase will trigger an event called value whenever the data is loaded into the database. So once the data is loaded, then we'll get a snapshot of the data, and then the actual data can be accessed by using the val method. So then this data parameter variable would have the data from the database, then we can do stuff with it. So that is how you read. All right, demo program 2. So once again, for this to work, you need to copy your config from the Firebase project, like I showed, and put it in here. And then here we're catching the return value of the Firebase.database. This is also necessary to initialize Firebase. And this is how you read it. We do some kind of weird stuff here because we're printing out the total doubly nested JSON tree. So it looks kind of weird, but basically it's just for each parent key. So the first for loop iterates through each parent key, and then the second for loop iterates through each sub key, which is final location program in school, and then it just prints them out. So I will show that. Demo 2. So there you go. You print it out. So that's cool. And let's see. Okay, so now using set. So we have 3 pre-built functions to demonstrate. This is using set, as the name suggests. So the added key doesn't exist in the imported JSON. So it's going to create that path and then add these key value pairs to the database. So the cool thing about Firebase is if you do using set, you have to add parentheses, by the way, because if you don't, it just returns the function So add parentheses to actually run the function. And then you will see, I didn't get to it. Okay, you'll see this. So you see added wasn't there before. I think if we refresh, is it still there? It is. Oh yeah, because it's permanently there because obviously database. So that's cool. And the thing about the set method is it will overwrite any data that you have if the key already exists. So in our case, the added key didn't exist, so it created a new key for that called added. But if we already had this key in existence, it would overwrite whatever other key value pairs, key JSON pairs was in it. It would basically delete them and then just add these two. So there would be nothing else inside of that key. So using update, it will do the opposite of what I just said. It will update only part of the key value pair or key JSON tree. So it preserves other data. That's what I'm trying to get at. So right here, we still have the added key, and inside of it, we have the key value pair and other key, other value pair. But now we're just going to update the value of other key. So it should preserve the key and the value right here, this line 45. So if we run using update with parentheses, you can see it was yellow for a second because it was changed, and now it's set to new value instead of other value. And using delete, like I said before, there's no parameters because it's going to be deleting everything at the key that you specify. So it's going to be deleting key, the added key, and everything within it. So if we run that, then see it's red because that shows it's deleted and it's removed completely from the database. So that demonstrates the 4 ways to use data. You can add, change it, or delete it, and it's how you read it. It's kind of a more complex way to read it. The normal way to read it is shown in the checkpoint 2 code, which I will go over later. Let me just do that. Okay, so that was demo 2. So technically everything, like all 3 of these methods right here, they return, so they're promises, and you need to handle those technically. We don't go over it into this class because it's not required. Like all we're doing right here is just assuming that this method will execute correctly, and we don't have any catches if there are errors. So we're just assuming there won't be any errors. So to be more correct, you would have a way to handle these promises and to determine if they worked or if they didn't. But that's like it's titled advanced, more advanced. So it still works without it, but yeah. And for proper web development principles, it's called CRUD. So your final project needs to implement all these. It's an acronym. It stands for create, read, update, delete. And I just went over those in demo 2. So create was set, read was the the string of methods here, the once and then the then. And then update is actually just update, and delete is the remove method. So it's best to load the data only after the web page is loaded. Otherwise, it's bad practice. The data is loaded before the web page. That wouldn't make sense. And that way the data isn't called unnecessarily. It's only there when the user wants it. So to do this, to know when the web page has been loaded by Vue, we can use the mounted function, and it only runs whenever the web page is fully loaded, which is really nice. So this is also where you're going to put your database read, both in the checkpoint and in your final project. So all we do is just add it to the Vue instance, just like all the other properties. And what's cool about it is we will actually never call this explicitly. We'll never call it in HTML. We'll never call it in our JavaScript. Vue will call it for us. So we never need to worry about where to put it. All right, so checkpoint 2, what you're going to do using Firebase, render the contents, and, the import JSON that you put in the database, render that to a web page, and add some functionality to it with buttons and text boxes. To add, add, update, remove data using the CRUD principles, And we have a really good example on GitHub. Just want to go over that real quick. So this is the mountain function that I talked about. We'll never call it. Vue calls it for us. And you can use this as a good skeleton for what you should do in this checkpoint. You'll just change what it's doing here. So yeah, I think that's it. I didn't show it before, but here's the example of how to get the methods libraries from Firebase, and make sure you import or include Vue, otherwise you're gonna get errors. Always include your script. I think that's about it. Oh yeah, once again, you need to paste your config to this file. So paste it wherever you want to use the Firebase. And I think that's it. One thing before I finish, here are the final project requirements. So we have these now. I'll send a link to this document in Slack. It tells you when it's due, so November 13th. But you can ask for extensions, like we're very lenient. We'd rather you finish the project and not feel rushed than finish it, rushed. And it has instructions on how to submit it. And a good example. So here's the beginner demo. So this is kind of like what you want to make. You obviously want to do something different to be more creative, but this is just a base functionality. You can delete, you can restore stuff that you finished. You can add a to-do and edit it. So that's how that works. And the source code, unfortunately, is what's called, it's like hidden, so you can't see it. But we do have a lot of the code shown in our different checkpoints and stuff. So you should have a lot of resources to help you get going on this, and we're here to help as well. So that's the demo. Here's the requirements. Here's the beginner, and as well, we have some useful resources. Here's exactly what you need. The point one, you need all these. And number two, you choose 2 out of these 3. And then the intermediate track requirements are after this. If you're curious, if you're on the fence of which one you want to do. So that's the requirements. I think with that, yes, that's done. So there's the Google Forms if you want to give feedback for how I did, kind of the howdy. Hope you learned something, and yeah, I'll be here. We went through this pretty fast, so I'll still be here till 5:30 if you have any questions. Feel free to stick around and do the checkpoint. It is kind of lengthy. You can also, you can leave and stop by in office hours or just DM us if you have any questions on your own time. So yeah, thank you very much.